7 smart ways to shield your energy against envy. Envy has always been the silent shadow that follows any light daring to shine. You do not need to boast, you do not need to shout your victories. Sometimes just walking steadily in the direction of what you believe is enough for glances to change, for smiles to grow colder, for the air around you to feel heavier. Envy rarely knocks at the door announcing itself. It hides in the subtleties, a compliment with sharp edges, a silence where you expected applause, a look that lingers longer than it should. Have you ever felt this invisible pressure, as if your energy suddenly dropped after a conversation? That is what envy does. It doesn't wound because of what others feel, but because of what you allow to enter your own spirit. To shield your energy against envy is not to withdraw from the world, not to become cold, not to build walls that isolate you. Shielding is not the same as hiding. Shielding is about protecting what is essential without hardening what makes you alive. It is about learning how to walk free and untouched even while shadows follow you. Because the truth is simple, shadows exist only because there is light. And so, the presence of envy is not proof of your weakness. It is proof that you are shining. Shouldn't that change the way you see it? If envy is evidence of your brightness, why let it drain you? The first smart way to shield your energy is awareness. Awareness means you recognize envy without absorbing it. Most of the wounds people carry do not come from envy itself, but from the way they internalize it. A sarcastic remark, a backhanded compliment, a silence too heavy to ignore, and suddenly you carry those things as if they were true. But what if you could see envy for what it is, smoke in the air? It may sting the eyes for a moment, but only suffocates the one who decides to inhale deeply. How many times have you chosen to breathe in smoke that was never yours to carry? How many times did you give away your peace to someone who didn't even know what to do with their own? The second way is silence. Envy feeds on reaction. It wants you to explain, to defend, to lose your calm proving yourself. But silence denies envy the satisfaction it craves. Silence is not absence, it is presence. It is the mature decision not to waste energy where it cannot bear fruit. Haven't you noticed that silence often speaks louder than explanations? That not answering sometimes leaves a weight heavier than any words you could have offered? Silence is not weakness, it is mastery. How many storms in your life would have passed more quickly had you chosen silence instead of defense? How much lighter would you be if you stopped spending your energy on proving what time would prove anyway? The third way is focus. Envy is distraction wearing another face. It wants you to look sideways, to pause your work, to question your steps. It wants to rob your attention from what truly matters. But focus is remembering that your mission is bigger than the whispers. The sun does not stop to argue with the shadows it creates. It simply keeps rising day after day until even the shadows cannot deny its presence. And are you wasting time explaining yourself to shadows? How far ahead would you already be if you kept your eyes fixed on your horizon instead of glancing back to prove something to those who do not wish to see? The fourth way is clarity. Clarity is the inner certainty of who you are, what you value, and why you walk the way you do. Envy thrives in confusion. It tries to distort your identity, plant doubt, make you second-guess whether you deserve to stand where you are. But clarity burns away those illusions. When you have clarity, no whisper becomes a sentence, no distorted narrative can settle into your heart. Isn't it true that people who know themselves don't waste energy convincing others? What would change if you chose clarity over confusion every single time envy tried to cloud your reflection? The fifth way is detachment. Detachment is freedom from needing everyone's approval. Envy is a reminder that not everyone will celebrate you, no matter what you do. And that is not a tragedy, that is simply reality. The problem is not that some 1T applaud, the problem is believing that you need their applause to continue. Detachment says, I walk forward anyway. Detachment says, I don't shrink to make others comfortable. Detachment says, I don't beg for acceptance because my worth was never up for debate. How many dreams have you dimmed because you feared others' reactions? How many steps have you delayed because you wanted to be liked by all? And if envy was simply proof that you were stepping out of mediocrity, wouldn't you learn to welcome it as confirmation rather than rejection? The sixth way is resilience. Resilience turns every sting of envy into training. Every backhanded comment becomes a reminder that you are in motion. Every attempt to pull you down becomes proof that you are standing taller. Resilience is not about ignoring the hurt. It is about feeling the wound and moving forward anyway. Isn't it true that only those who rise above the ordinary attract envy? Mediocrity never provokes it, only growth does. So if you are being envied, doesn't that mean you are already beyond the level of ordinary? And the seventh way, the highest form of shield, is peace. Peace is not passive, it is powerful. Peace is not what you feel when there are no shadows. It is what you carry even in their presence. Peace says, I will not let envy dictate my emotions. Peace is the refusal to surrender your inner climate to the storms of others. Have you noticed how disarming peace can be? When others expect you to crumble, but you remain calm. When they wait for your anger, but you smile. When they hope you will bend, but you stand steady. Isn't peace the sharpest, most intelligent weapon you could ever carry? Envy cannot be erased from the world, but it can be erased from your spirit. The shadows may remain, but your energy can remain untouched if you choose awareness, silence, focus, clarity, detachment, resilience, and peace as your invisible shields. The question is not whether envy will come. It will. The question is whether you will remain whole when it does. Which of these shields, awareness, silence, focus, clarity, detachment, resilience, or peace, do you need most right now to keep your energy untouchable? Envy does not only appear in grand, dramatic ways. More often, it seeps in through the smallest cracks of life. It lives in the questions that sound like concern but are filled with comparison. It lives in the long silence after you share good news. It lives in the subtle tightening of someone's smile when you step into a moment of success. And if you are not careful, you begin to carry these subtle signals as if they were truths about you. Isn't it strange how easy it is to let someone else's discomfort become your guilt? How many times have you shrunk your celebration because the room felt heavy with unspoken envy? But what if you didn't shrink? What if you learned to stand tall even in the presence of those shadows? The first shield, awareness, is not just about recognizing envy, it is about refusing to personalize it. Envy is never truly about you. It is about the one who feels it, about what they have not faced in themselves, about the battles they have not fought. When someone envies, they are not declaring your arrogance, they are confessing their lack. Isn't that liberating to realize? That envy is a mirror of the other person, not a definition of you. And yet, how often do we forget and allow those feelings to enter our hearts? Awareness means looking at envy and saying, I see you, but I do not carry you. Could you imagine how light your spirit would feel if you practiced this daily? The second shield, silence, becomes even more powerful when you understand its depth. Silence is not the coward's retreat, it is the warrior's restraint. Anyone can throw words, only the strong can withhold them. Silence communicates something that words cannot, that you are untouchable. When envy expects an argument but meets quiet dignity, it crumbles. Have you ever seen how uncomfortable people become when their provocation is met with calm? They expect fire and instead encounter still water. Isn't that more powerful than any comeback you could design? How much energy would you save if you learned to let silence speak for you? The third shield, focus, reminds you that your life is too important to be spent on trivial battles. Focus is like a compass pointing to your destiny, and envy is like the wind trying to knock you off course. If you turn with every gust, you will wander endlessly. But if you keep your eyes fixed on the horizon, no wind can confuse you. What if you saw envy not as a reason to stop, but as confirmation that you are moving in the right direction? After all, no one envies those who are stagnant. People envy movement, they envy growth, they envy courage. So the next time you feel the sting of envy, could you say to yourself, "This means I am still moving"? The fourth shield, clarity, is what separates those who bend under pressure from those who stand tall. Clarity is the inner knowing of who you are, what you stand for, and why you continue. Without clarity, whispers become doubts, and doubts become chains. But with clarity, no whisper has the power to bind you. Think about the times in your life when you were most certain about your purpose. Didn't you walk differently? Didn't you speak with more conviction? Didn't you sleep with less fear? Clarity burns through envy's fog. Could you choose today to reclaim clarity as your shield, to remind yourself of your truth so that no shadow can rewrite your story? The fifth shield, detachment, is a freedom that feels almost rebellious. To detach is to accept that some people will never celebrate you. They will not clap, they will not smile, they will not encourage. And that is not your burden to carry. Detachment means living free from the need for their applause. Isn't it exhausting to live performing for others' approval? Haven't you noticed that the more you try to be liked by everyone, the less you feel like yourself? Detachment allows you to breathe again. It says, "I do not need your permission to shine. I do not need your approval to keep going." Isn't that the kind of strength that makes envy irrelevant? The sixth shield, resilience, is forged in fire. It is not something you are born with, it is something you choose. Every time envy strikes and you continue walking, resilience grows. Every wound that doesn't stop you becomes a scar of strength. Every attempt to break you becomes proof that you are unbreakable. Isn't it true that scars can be more beautiful than unmarked skin? Because they prove survival. What if you started to see envy not as poison, but as training? Wouldn't that transform every bitter word into evidence of your growth? And then comes the seventh shield, peace. Peace is not a fragile calm that breaks under pressure. It is a fortress inside you. Peace is choosing not to let envy decide your mood. It is smiling in rooms where others scowl. It is sleeping at night without carrying the bitterness of the day. Have you ever noticed how envy hates peace? Because envy thrives on disruption, and when you refuse to be disrupted, envy withers. Could peace become your sharpest weapon, the invisible armor that keeps you untouchable? The truth is, shielding your energy is not about isolating yourself from the world. It is about walking through the world free. Free to celebrate without guilt. Free to shine without apology. Free to keep moving even when shadows follow. Isn't that the kind of freedom you were made for? And if so, why keep giving your power to whispers? Envy is not your burden. Your only responsibility is to guard your energy with wisdom. And when you do, envy loses its teeth, its claws, its grip. What once felt heavy becomes nothing more than background noise. What would your life look like if you finally stopped performing for approval and started protecting your energy with intelligence? Envy will never vanish from the world because it is the natural shadow cast by light. To wish for a life without envy is to wish for a life without growth, without progress, without visibility. But the wise do not waste their energy hoping for a world without shadows. They learn instead to walk carrying an inner armor that cannot be pierced. Shielding your energy is not about becoming untouchable by hiding. It is about becoming untouchable by rising. It is about refusing to surrender your peace, your clarity, your focus, your essence, no matter how many whispers surround you. The first shield, awareness, begins to feel like a superpower when you practice it daily. The moment you sense envy in the room, you can choose to name it quietly in your mind. This is not mine. And suddenly the weight that would have sunk into your spirit slips away before it can root itself. Awareness is like a gatekeeper at the entrance of your soul, deciding what gets in and what stays out. Imagine how different your life would be if you refused to internalize every hidden glance, every sarcastic remark, every cold silence. Isn't awareness the first step to freedom? And if so, why wait to start? The second shield, silence, only grows more valuable the more you realize how many battles it saves you from. Words are expensive, and not every situation deserves your currency. The envious thrive on your reaction. They need you to prove, defend, justify. But silence denies them the stage. Silence says, "Your noise does not deserve my sound." Have you noticed how silence can feel heavier than confrontation? How sometimes the absence of reaction leaves others more unsettled than any argument could? Silence preserves your energy, and in doing so, it multiplies your strength. Good silence become not just your defense, but your crown. The third shield, focus, reminds you that every minute spent wrestling with envy is a minute stolen from your future. Envy is a detour. Focus is the straight path, and only you decide which one you will take. Focus says, "I will not stop my journey to entertain shadows." It is like a river that does not pause for every stone thrown into it. It keeps flowing, and in the end, it shapes landscapes while the stones remain behind. How much more could you create if you stopped giving time to shadows? Isn't your purpose more urgent than your explanations? The fourth shield, clarity, is what turns the noise of envy into static that cannot penetrate your frequency. Clarity is when you know yourself so deeply that no one else's opinion has the power to rewrite your story. Clarity is not arrogance, it is security. It is the firm ground under your feet when whispers try to shake you. Think about the times you have felt most certain about your path. Didn't every attack lose its sting? Didn't every doubt dissolve against the strength of your conviction? Clarity is the shield that makes you unshakable, and the question remains, will you keep borrowing your identity from the approval of others? Or will you choose clarity as your constant companion? The fifth shield, detachment, may be the hardest but also the most freeing. Detachment means making peace with the truth that not everyone will clap for you. Some will never support you. Some will never understand you. And that is no longer your business. Detachment says, "I will shine anyway." Detachment says, "I will keep moving whether you like it or not." Detachment says, "My worth is not a negotiation." How many years of your life have been wasted seeking applause from the wrong audience? What dreams have you delayed waiting for permission that was never going to come? Isn't it time to release that burden and walk free? The sixth shield, resilience, transforms envy into evidence. Every envious word becomes proof that you are moving forward. Every jealous glance becomes confirmation that you are living visibly. Resilience is built every time you choose to continue instead of collapse. It is strengthened every time you keep walking, even when the whispers grow louder. Isn't it true that only those who rise draw shadows? Mediocrity is invisible, courage is not. So the very existence of envy in your life is proof that you are rising. Wouldn't it be wise to let that proof empower you instead of weaken you? And then comes the seventh shield, peace, the final and most unshakable protection. Peace is not pretending envy doesn't exist. It is choosing serenity in spite of its presence. Peace is the quiet strength that disarms envy completely, because envy expects anger, and when it finds peace, it collapses. Envy expects bitterness, but when it meets joy, it withers. Envy expects you to explain yourself, but when you remain calm, it loses its script. Peace is not weakness, it is power in its purest form. Wouldn't you agree that peace is harder to shake than any wall you could build? When you live with these seven shields, awareness, silence, focus, clarity, detachment, resilience, and peace, You become untouchable not because envy has vanished, but because envy has no way to penetrate you. The shadows will always exist, but you will walk as though they are irrelevant. And perhaps that is the greatest freedom of all, not waiting for the world to change, but changing the way you carry yourself through the world. So the real question is, how long will you keep surrendering your energy to whispers that were never about you? How long will you let envy dictate your joy, your peace, your movement? Or will you finally shield yourself with intelligence, walk forward with serenity, and burn so brightly that no shadow could ever steal your light? If you chose to protect your energy with awareness, silence, focus, clarity, detachment, resilience, and peace, starting today, how unstoppable would you become?